Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Vibrotes, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Keys, Tommy Swagnitz, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Google and G+, or in Discord rather, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
If somebody doesn't know how to make a basic triangle, I mean, what kind of conversation can you have with them?
Well, that's what they're saying. They're saying we're not making a triangle. We're just making two straight lines.
So
and when you bring up the circle of equal altitude, they're like, where do you get a circle from? Circles are imaginary.
Yeah, and?
Listen, I explained the whole thing, the whole circle of equal altitude, how all of that, when you plot the three stars, you have so much area of flat. I don't know what they're not getting. I don't know what their issue is. That's why I wanted them to come on. I said, listen, just come on the show. Nathan welcomes you there. Come on the show. He speaks highly of you. And tell us where we're going wrong. If we're going wrong, which I doubt.
Hold on. Who do I talk highly of? Who are you talking about?
Bev.
Bev? What about him?
They don't like our argument. They think it's fuck all with angles. They think it's stupid. They think it's confusing. They think, they're not on board.
Well, usually when an argument has your opponent make your points for you, yeah, I guess it is confusing for some people.
Alrighty then.
Huey said be patient, so I'll be patient.
Patient about what?
I got some.
About the whole thing. I think he's aware of it. This goes back to the Black Swan thing, which they're totally anti-Black Swan. So that's another thing. But listen, when you go somewhere and you feel like people are trying to pull you away, that's the feeling I got Saturday. I got a very icky feeling. And I was right.
Okay, I don't really know what you're talking about. Icky feeling.
What's to not know? What's not to know? They're not on board with our arguments. They pretty much think our arguments are stupid.
And that matters because?
Because we're at the top, and I want to remain at the top.
Top of what exactly?
Top of the flat earth debate. Don't underestimate your own show, Nathan. I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Faith in what?
This show.
I have absolute faith in my own show. It's my show.
Start acting like it.
What do you mean start acting like it? What's this attitude? I'm going to take your wrench away.
Listen, I went there Saturday. I'm thinking everybody's on the same page, and I'm feeling this pull away telling me, don't you feel the show is going circular? And I said, I thought you just don't believe in circles.
Hey,
And they know
speaking
that
of the Black
because
Swan,
they know that because they're tuned in watching, right?
Well, I shared the show with them yesterday. I shared the show with Discord Next Level, whatever the hell his show is called.
You're not getting me, Neil. For them to know,
What'd you say?
for them to know that we're not doing something right, there's either ignorance, they don't know what we're doing because they haven't watched, or they have watched. And I'm saying, so they've watched, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Subscribe today to Nathan Oakley 1980. That's what it's all about. Make sure you keep watching, Bev. You disagree? That's fantastic. Subscribe. Let me know in the comments.
Well, I told them come on the show. Go ahead, John. I know you're waiting to say something.
yeah, this isn't. It's not agree at this point. It's just both sides utilize a flat plane to acquire an angle measurement. I don't know why you would have a problem with that. But speaking of which, I do have a bit of blasphemy about the Black Swan.
Blasphemy? Again, it's not really agree, disagree, or anything to be blasphemous about, but go on.
Well, just say that we didn't have a picture of the horizon exceeding the geometric limitations of a sphere radius 3959. Just say that picture, no pictures like that existed, right? Even though there's thousands of them. It matters not. With the curved adjacent argument, it wouldn't matter if the horizon did fall within their affirming the consequent formological fallacy. And it always held true that the horizon was 1.22 times the observer's square root feet. They would still need a flat plane to derive R.
Yeah, in many ways, I think I'm picking up on what you're saying. You're basically saying, in many ways, as much as the curved adjacent argument's touted as a flat earth proof, it also actually makes the Black Swan argument redundant if you know it well enough.
Yeah, it's a logical headlock. You can't, you have to accept the premise is true to even get a measurement.
Right.
It's over.
Yeah, they're going to need an angle to derive anything that's going to give them a sphere claim. So they're going to need a flat plane first. That said, it's nice to have the Black Swan under your belt when someone says, no, I'll just draw out a tangent to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon and have a flat plane teeter-tottering on that geometric tangent point called Earth curve that you debunk with the Black Swan. Because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be saying that's been debunked with the Black Swan.
I was trying to explain that to my wife.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Even if they said that, what are you talking about? A flat plane has no curves.
Right. Yeah, it's always going to... You're never going to... I'm never going to catch you out on this. Yes, it will always return to them requiring an angle measurement taken from a flat plane. That's the start of both parties' claims. So you and I were discussing it yesterday. I can't remember who was here. I think it was a baller. I must trim that out. But yeah, laying it out to him. You will need a flat plane. I will need a flat plane. They will need a flat plane. We will all require flat planes. What's that? You got a ball belief? You're going to need a flat plane for that.
My wife was saying that Earth is very, 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 very big. So there are some flat surfaces on Earth. And I was trying to explain to her that there are no flat surfaces on a sphere.
Yeah,
I even explained to
that. So
David
let me get it
Rapkaya.
straight. You're moaning about other people not liking the argument, yet your wife is arguing how she wants to have flat planes to do stuff with. How nice.
Well, she's saying, and then when I also tried to explain this to Rakia, he was like, I said, a basketball has no flat surfaces. That's the thing about a sphere, right? It has no flatness to it. We don't live on a basketball. So I'm just using it as an example.
No, the point is you can't pull an angle measurement from the surface of a basketball.
Agreed. But my wife came back with the same thing. Yeah, but Earth is very big.
It matters not.
I agree.
The amount of curve to the adjacent does not matter. You need it to be a flat baseline.
Yeah, very big, very flat, and it must be.
Exactly.
Like, let's say that
even with their
Go ahead, citation, please.
I was going to say, even with their alleged vertical baseline being straight, they're actually just taking that angle and then using the reciprocal to the horizontal plane that they would assume is underneath it. So they're just using sleight of hand to draw attention away from the horizontal plane that they have to force onto the sphere.
Yes, very well put. So what you're saying is, if they've got any preconceived notions of a sphere, they declare that they've got to correct for it. And what are they correcting it to? Well, a flat plane.
That they had to utilize from the beginning.
Correct, Neil.
And, I'm pretty sure Eratosthenes wasn't measuring from his vertical when he was using sticks and shadows. He was measuring along the ground, where he would have put the stick on his head and stuck it out 90 degrees.
Yeah, we know they're using planar methodology. We know they are. And so do our opponents. They know it. We know it. When they've described it in the past and detailed it with the trig, they'll show it on a plane. So they know it, we know it, everyone knows it now. Cat's out of the bag, Earth must be flat.
I bet you it's a lot easier to argue it if everyone already thinks it's a sphere. Then you can just ignore that painful truth that you took your angle measurement from a flat plane and just keep whistling past, the death of your argument.
Yeah, but that's why we're causing so much cognitive pain at the moment. While they whistle past it and go, here you go, here's some angle measurements. That we took from a plane. Shh! Can you tell us where you are? Yeah, you took them from a plane. No, we can acquire them by any means, it doesn't matter. No, you need an angle. It's two straight lines taken from a baseline that's flat. That's how you got that angle that you're asking me about. You need a flat plane to ask me this question, don't you know?
I think Big Blue did a video on how to achieve what we're asking them to achieve, but I can't find it nowhere.
Probably what he did was used a flat plane to acquire the angle measurements, and then he drew a ball in with the existing angle measurements and just had them strike the ball at different points.
Well, considering he brought a bunch of containers in to prove gas pressure without a container, I suppose Big Blue did something ridiculous.
No, what he'll have done is exactly as John described. He'll have used a flat plane and then stuck it on a teeter-tottering tangent point that he can't get out because he needs a flat plane to get it.
Or he would have took the opposite angle after acquiring the adjacent from a flat plane. He would have took the opposite angle from the source, or from the sun supposedly, and then redrew a sphere instead and had it strike the points with those angles from its source point. So it just acknowledging he needed a flat plane to get the angles and then redrawing the angles onto a sphere.
So that's like back engineering it.
No. That's the thing, Neil. They're not back engineering it. They're utilising a flat plane. Yeah, it's the best slam dunk so far in the 7 odd years, maybe more. I can't remember how long I've been doing this now. Quite a while. It's the best one to date. Well,
Nathan, nobody claims the ground under the mountain is curving.
Yeah, that's the kind of rebuttals we get. So when somebody says, I don't like your argument from seemingly our own side, I go, I don't care. Really. I've got fundies telling me how they want to assume there's flatness, begging me for there to be flatness to the world, and telling me how flat it is under a mountain when I put this argument to them. So do you think I'd give a toss what Bev thinks? No! But come and subscribe and keep watching my videos, Bev. You can watch the fundies tell me how flat it is and beg me for flatness. You can watch that while you tell your audience how crap it is.
I don't think it's
Hopefully they'll
crap.
come in and clear the air.
Good morning.
Bev's
Oh,
all right. If he's
welcome.
got a genuine issue, which he may or may not have, I don't know or care, I'm sure he'll come in. He'll just come in and go, no, what are you talking about? Actually, I meant this. Or it was a ploy. Or I was leading this guest to a particular point. Or whatever he comes up with. I don't care either way. Even if he does come up with an explanation and what you're telling me is all correct.
Well, when you look at any diagram of how they have, established the celestial sphere, they have the plane right through the middle of it that they're taking their measurements from. That's the surface of Earth, a flat plane. And they built their celestial sphere upon it.
Yep.
I mean, it's not even a chess game when your opponent, surrenders the point before you start playing,
So
Yeah.
you're saying he's giving away his king and his queen?
Kind of.
It's like you sit down and you move a pawn 2 spaces and they just knock their king over. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah. So the argument is Earth is spherical, curving away 8 inches per mile squared to a physical geometric spheroid horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's what they claim. So when they come here and we say, yeah, but to measure any of these angles that you talk about in your claim to be proofsies of a globe Earth, you need a flat plane to get them. And then, as I just said earlier, albeit reference to Bev, they then have to beg us for a flat plane to use by some means or another. Now, if they're going to assert that they've got a dissection of a sphere and a plane running through the middle of it, it's like, well, you're just working this angle where you measure it from. So if you're going to say that it's at the centre of a sphere on a plane, that's where you're holding the tool. But we're not at the centre of a sphere. Now, you could describe it as a celestial dome in the same exact depiction with pencil in side view and say, yeah, you're looking at your perspective of the stars and measuring the angles from this flat plane, as opposed to the angle you actually measure and require a flat plane for being transposed to the centre of a presupposed spherical sphere that we are definitely not taking any measurements from. And they'll do that after they've took the measurement. That's John's point. So you've got this measurement, have you, from a flat plane? Game over. Bye-bye. Fuck off. You've lost. Get lost. That's the end of the argument.
It's the beginning and the end, really.
Yeah, but hold on, brother. Hold on. I can always just convert it to a coordinate system by making an assumption that the stars are an infinite distance with parallel light rays and then reverse engineer it and prove that it's a flat baseline.
You're still going to need... Hold on, I was about to steal John's thunder. You take the glory, John. Go ahead.
Still got to assume a flat plane to do all that. That's after you've taken the measurements.
Correct. After you've taken the angle measurements to the now assumed to be infinite distances away, based on their angles that you've measured on the ground, that's going to be flat to do that. Yeah, that's going to need a flat plane also. Citation, please.
What if I bend the 2 ends of the flat plane with my space-time?
Oh, right, in a bending fourth dimensional region that we don't exist in. You can do that mathematically all day long. Mental masturbation's not going to make the Earth spherical, though. It's definitely flat. It must be for your argument to work, because you're going to be using angles, and then claiming that they're infinitely distant from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, with a flat plane drawn in it, and an angle being taken from it, when in fact you're taking it off a flat plane. That's how you get angles. So it's going to need a flat plane also. It's a good time to be a flat earther. I mean, I'm being dead serious about that. Said it on the last couple of shows. You know, there's very little to stress about, if anybody disagrees with that. But I can't think of any arguments that are suddenly lingering around that I feel like I've got to address. Nothing like that. We've won.
Sorry, I was gloating for a minute.
Me too. I was just sitting here smiling. No words needed.
But yeah, that's for them to try to move past this, they have to concede the entire argument and say, yes, we're going to utilize a flat plane to establish a celestial sphere to do the rest of this crap.
Well, when we got to that point with the guy yesterday, his response was, I don't want to get into that. That was what he said. I don't want to get into that. That flat plane.
They just want to use that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They just want to use the angle measurements. They don't want to talk about how they got them.
Yeah. So he's given us a detailed description now. He's starting from a spherical model and back engineering it into flat or a triangle or a pyramid or whatever he wants. It's like, yeah, but all the angle measurements for the sphere model that you started with, they all were taken from a flat plane. You understand this. And then it was broken down by 3 different people. And he tried to segue in the most polite way. And I got him to listen up. Your ideas of the world require a flat plane. Do you understand now? It's been explained by 3 different people. And you've nodded along, listening. And he said, I don't want to get into that. That being the flat plane he requires. It was epic.
To be fair, he said he had to look into a few things, which I don't know what things he could possibly be wanting to look into. It's black and white, cut and dry.
Oh, I can send him on his way with a few things to look into. Look how angles are made. There you go. Yeah, you don't have curved surfaces for those angles, do you now? You know it, we know it, and because you know it, you don't want to get into it. Yeah, we're sitting pretty. You guys share your pain.
Yeah, I was about to say that's where the cognitive problems start coming in, is when somebody keeps pointing out that people are saying things like, I'll give you the flat plane, or the grounds. Who says the ground's curving?
Highlander.
Right,
anyway,
so yeah.
Nathan. Go ahead.
Highlander and cats. So cats, I'll have to give you a flat plane in order to make this claim about the Blackpool Swan. Yeah? Oh, really? Well, why don't you just give it a spherical surface, given that that's your claim, and by telling us you must do it on a flat plane? Because you wouldn't be giving it us unless you had to. And you did definitely have to. You couldn't get any of the angles you were claiming without it, could you, cats? What's that, Highlander? The ground under the mountain's flat. Who claims it's curving? Well, you do. Until you need to do some planar trig, and then you're going to need it flat. Like all of the angle measurements that we're going to be rubbing in your face from now until your mental breakdown.
Which, by the way, your discernment on who's a baller and who's not, Nathan. You're 0 for 2 lately. What's going on?
Well, they're going to be of a certain ilk now, aren't they? And plus, I've got to be honest, my defences are down a little bit because I keep saying it. It's like, does it matter? Do I need to be on high alert because some baller's going to come in? No, I can be totally laid back about it now. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The ones that irritate me now, the ones that get my blood boiling, are the ones that overtly lie. Like Zanuck, Milli Vanilli. Right? You don't need 90. Yeah, you do. You acquire your elevation angle by any means. No, you'll be measuring it. All lies that they must now tell. Those people make my blood boil. As for some fundy Joe that comes in with a sphere belief, because he's got it, and that's just the way life is. And, he's looked into it, and he's even saying, hey, look, I can model this flat, so none of this proves anything. We don't know. Oh, that's a nice fence you've built yourself there, isn't it? Oh, how sweet. Bang! No, it's flat, you fuckwit. You need an angle. Yeah, get off that fence. You're not going to be sitting up there for long.
Well, I do got to make a correction to myself. Earlier, I said reciprocal angle. It's actually the complementary angle, because reciprocal angles are pretty much the same numerical value, positive or negative, or however it's expressed. But a complementary angle is the remainder from 90, right? So if you assert a vertical line that you're taking your angle off, and let's say it's 30 degrees, and the remaining degrees is 60. So when you're doing your nautical mile calculation, which are you going to use, 30 or 60? You have to pick one. And if you pick 60, right, that means there's a horizontal below that.
That's when you assert the flat sky, right?
Yeah. So they take the angle measurement in the sky and ignore the fact that the angle's related to a GP on the ground. So if you're going to minus it off the angle you measure in the sky, you're going to need to be doing it in the same exact way with a flat baseline. It makes no difference. It's what you're doing.
Right, but all I got to do is just name it Celestial Horizon, and then it sounds more legit.
Oh, what, another... Just make up an imaginary horizon, you mean? Oh, well, that's a new trick. Or not.
Gonna need this space plum bob anyway.
Space bomb.
We got too many bobs already.
So we only have one horizon, and the horizon in their curve maths is physical and geometric. Or it was, before we started pointing out that you need a flat plane to get it, making it totally nonsensical. You can't claim that there's a horizon bending away from you at a certain value when the values come from a flat plane measurement in the first instance. No, that will not do.
Hey, Nathan, good morning, by the way.
Morning.
Can you go to Master B and put up the single slide I put up there?
Yeah, sure. This newspaper article looking thing.
It's a book.
Oh, okay.
From the Annapolis Book of Seamanship. So, high authority there. The sextant. The sextant measures the altitude or vertical angle to the celestial body using the horizon as the baseline. That's it.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Game over.
Game over.
Hint, you're going to make them make the military throw away all their sextants. That's what they're going to end up doing.
You know, the
no.
crazy thing. Go on, Nathan.
Well, no. While the anti-flat earthers might think that they can brace against this for an eternity, no, they can't. They can't just demand that suddenly people start using items of war in a different manner to how they've been successfully used in the past because they've got a fundamentalist religious belief based on the doctrine of the Western world. It's like anybody who's presumably in any position of power that's dealing with those people, the reason we get the citations about it being flat are because the people who are actually dealing with that equipment aren't total idiots. And they're going to deal with it how it works, which is flat. That's why we have those citations. Now, it's not ever going to be the case that they're going to go, oh, but aren't we supposed to be weaseling in a sphere-edge horizon into this? No, because it makes no difference to how it functions in reality on a flat plane. So that's how they'll deal with it, and that's how they'll document it, and that's how it is documented.
Do you have the screenshot still up for people to see?
Yeah, if you want me to.
Okay, I'll still keep reading because there's good stuff afterwards. I mean, that just says it there, but okay, so let me just start again. The sextant measures the altitude or vertical angle to the celestial body using the horizon as the baseline. For calculating positions, the most reliable altitudes are between 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Since a clear, steady horizon is the frame of reference for taking altitudes, celestial navigation may be impossible in bad weather due either to instability because of the boat's wild rolling or to poor visibility. Navigators speak of times when there is no horizon because it blends into the sky. While bubble sextants with artificial horizons may work on aircraft, the bubble may be too unstable for use on pleasure boats. The range of sextants is broad, from the inexpensive plastic ones designed for lifeboats to high-precision metal instruments. I mean, that one paragraph right there, it covered so many points that we've taught on. I mean, do you see the areas there?
Well, they're detailing how you do it with the horizon and the flat plane. And there's not really much to this. This is a short argument now. Now we've all got our heads around it. It's a relatively short argument.
What have the ballers and anti-flat earthers been hanging on lately to? The vertical angle, right? They keep coming in with the vertical angle. Well, it says right here, the sextant measures the altitude or vertical angle to the celestial body using the horizon as the baseline. as if you can get a vertical and not establish a horizontal if you're going to use a 90, a right angle.
Yeah, because you need the complement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Citation.
Exactly.
So in the old days, they had this heavy astrolabe, and from it hung like a plumb bob, and and they had all kinds of other ways with the older sextants where they did use plumb bobs, and it would hang, and they'd have to make sure that was hanging vertical first and not moving, and then they know the complement is the horizontal because it's a right angle, because you minus it from 90. I mean, it's so simple.
Hey everyone, hey Nathan.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, would a refracted horizon be a clear, steady horizon?
Well, they'll need R for that refracted horizon, because in their world it's based on R, and they'll need a flat plane to get it.
To get R, yeah.
Yeah. I will keep
even if the horizon.
I will keep giving you props, John. Go ahead. It's your argument. You've diluted this down to. You're good at this. Boiling an argument down to a couple of sentences. Brilliant.
Right. Even if the horizon did follow what they claim the geometry of Earth is, they would still require a flat plane to measure their R value.
Yeah, but it gets worse than that, because they need a clear, steady horizon in the first place when they're using the flat plane. You know what I mean? So they need a clear, steady horizon, right, to make the flat plane measurements, that they're then going to turn into ball measurements, and then going to claim that they have an unsteady refracted horizon that they can't use.
Well, that might be the state of play with an anti-flat earther. That is definitely not the process. Once you're pointing at the horizon, as the citation just laid out, 10th man just delivered it a few moments ago, you just point at the horizon. That's all you do. And remember that you've got a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that's below the horizon that you're looking at, and you've got to get that and then minus it off and make it flat. No, they do all that crap to justify the angle measured on a flat plane that they've then got on a flat plane, teeter-tottering on a tangent point. Well, as John keeps saying, you're going to need R for that, and you're going to need a flat plane to get it. So the refracted bit, yeah, they will claim it, but it matters not. Furthermore, Brian, as you keep pointing out, which is probably why you want me to lead you here, they're going to correct it to something that's pure geometry, aren't they, Brian?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. To get their measurements in the first place, they've got to correct it from optical to geometric. So to have one, they have to do the other. You're not going to. So they need a flat plane to create a globe, and a steady, sure horizon on that flat plane.
It's a lot. If I can add to this, it's a lot like if you were to use a plumb bob to achieve a vertical sextant angle. The complement is a true horizontal because you have a 90. But that's not how sextant works at sea. As the argument said, it's unsteady to use a bubble sextant or your plumb bobs, the boat's tossing and turning. So you use the steady horizon. So the altitude is the horizontal reference point. So when you use the sextant to get the horizontal reference point, you are using the steady horizon. So you're establishing your baseline. So your baseline, once established after dip correction and all the all the things you do to make sure it's a true 90 or as close as you can get to a 90, that baseline gives you your vertical. Whereas the plumb bob gives you your vertical, which then gives you your horizontal because it's a 90. That's so. Whenever they use a sextant, it's not a vertical angle that they're measuring. It's a horizontal angle, and they need the horizon. You need the doggone plumb bob to do the vertical. Sextant don't have a plumb bob.
How do you use a 90, right, when you're transferring your minutes of degree directly down from the sky to transform directly into nautical miles? How do you use a 90 with diverging zeniths?
Don't.
Can't.
Even the you see the screen, guys.
Yes.
This space plumb bobs. It reminded me of some stuff again. In the bottom of the Great Pyramid, in one of the relics in the lower north shaft, there it is, these three things were found, and nobody knew for years what they were for. What the bloody hell, were they just symbolic things, or did they have a purpose? Lots of archaeologists have gone to work, and basically they're the important bits for you to make a sextant with a plumb bob for measuring the stars to build the pyramid. I'll just go down. Basically, it is a sextant, look. It's similar to the old Celtic cross. That's the origins of the Celtic cross, which has got an astrolabe, which looks like that circle on top of the cross. It's that same principle where you mount it into the ground and you generate your fixed angle from the plumb bob here. And then you twist and tilt, look along that line to get your angle to your star. But as you can see, even the Egyptians knew we were working off a flat plane. That's from the Great Pyramid, the remnants. Like I said, for years they didn't know what it was, and it's only recently they've postulated that's what it's all for.
Imagine going back in time and telling them that the Earth is a sphere.
Hold on, just one sec. So, Adam, in terms of this, how you've just portrayed it, are you just sticking it out there as their narrative, or?
Oh, this is theirs. This is current thinking. Current archaeological thinking of what this is for. I don't disagree because it fits. Like I said, it fits with lots of previous stuff. Point being, though, look, they're accurate to within 3 minutes, but they're doing all of this accuracy on a flat plane.
Okay, yeah, that's not the bit I'm kind of.
Okay, sorry. Leave me, Nathan.
Yeah, this does nicely correlate with our argument, Adam. That's lovely. So, does it then suggest that they dug this stuff out from a pyramid, as suggested in the story that you've just told us? I think you're probably hating me at this second, but there we go, Adam. That's just how I am.
I'm
I'm
confused.
wired.
I'm confused at the point. No, the point was at the bottom of one of the shafts. They've had these things, and like pyramid geeks, like me from the past, wouldn't have known what it was. And then it was, look at it. What the hell do you do with that? Why would that be at the bottom of one of the shafts that points out to Orion? Yeah, it's really odd. But actually, now when you understand the sextant and you understand this is an Egyptian sextant, it makes bloody sense why they'd put it at the bottom of one of the shafts that's pointing to the stars. That's the piece of equipment to use outside to measure your angles.
All of that bit I agree with. It's just the narrative of the archaeology that I potentially question. It's undermining your point, so I'm going to shut up.
Well, what is Egypt, you mean? Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah.
Well,
and you'll get into Bibles.
Maybe.
Well, I think what's a good point about this is you have ancient civilizations. I'm going to call them ancient. I don't know if they're ancient, but they're definitely well before our time. Like Egypt, ancient China, the Mayans, the Celts, the Norse, the Viking, all the Middle East, all these places, right? All of Asia, all these, Cambodia, you have all these places, right? And they all just treated the earth like they experienced it, stationary and a flat horizontal plane, basically. And you have people who call that belief archaic, yet those people haven't a clue how the Baalbek stones got to where they are in Iraq. They don't have a clue, not a clue. And they're constantly changing their guesses to do with things like the pyramids and other things, because they're trying to make up a story. But yet the people who just dealt with reality could obviously do things that they can't do now. They could move massive things like those Baalbek stones in Iraq. They're so huge, there's not a hope we have any equipment now that can move them. Yet they were moved. Those stones came from somewhere 100 miles away, or something like that. How did they get them there?
Aliens. Come on, Brian. Aliens.
Why are we spinning out this narrative? Some stuff got found by men who lie about archaeology all the time. But now, because it's correlative with our argument, well, look at all these ancient civilizations that knew the Earth was flat. Well, yeah, the stuff that's being shown demonstrates a flat Earth. I'll agree with that. As opposed to the origin, no, I don't know anything about that. And I know there's a lot of deception in that arena, huge amounts. So
Oh, you
why would
didn't
I buy
say
the
it's
narrative
origin.
of stones coming from somewhere and an ancient civilization struggling to move them? Why would I buy any of that?
Well, the stones, the Baalbek stones, them stones aren't, that particular stone is not found anywhere in that area where they are. They're found 100 miles away. I think it is, near this river.
Yeah. So, unless you had
that doesn't provide you a narrative, does it?
What I'm saying is,
Well, the Baalbek stones are
The
rectangular.
Hold on, before you go into the story, having something 100 miles away, if I said something that is in my possession was in existence 100 miles away, and it's super... In fact, I've got something. I've got a stone that I robbed from Merlin's cave. That's probably 100 miles away plus. Now, if I say, oh, you know where I'm going straight away, I can tell by the laughter, right? Well, that's a very ancient stone, obviously, right? Well, because that ancient stone has come from somewhere implausibly far away, it must prove that ancient civilizations had the means of travelling, because it's very old. It's like, now, obviously in my narrative, you're just going to pick that apart very quickly and go, why? Because you say so. That's it. Well, in this case, because the story says so.
No, I think I missed the most important part.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I know I'm missing the point. I just...
Yeah.
Okay.
The Baalbek stones they weren't just formed naturally where they are. They were placed in that way. It doesn't matter if they came from 20 feet away. The fact of the matter is they had to be placed there.
No, the point is that the Baalbek stones are contradictory to the narrative that the man gives us still. That's why they're quite unusual, because
I can get behind. Yeah,
yeah,
the narrative of the stones does not comport with the current narrative. That I can completely get behind without any criticism.
Yeah. So that's what's interesting about them. Their geology, their size, the fact that we couldn't move them today, couldn't do it, even with the best cranes. The Baalbek stuff, we just couldn't do it. We certainly couldn't place them on top of smaller stones and make it all balanced. There's all these bits, and none of that fits in with the ascent of man. It does it. It only ever fits in with us degrading in our abilities, which is what these things
Also ludicrous. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, John, 10th Man, Brian, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings.
Hello.
How are you?
Afternoon, everyone.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome.
Yeah, good to have everybody. So in the last couple of days, 3 days, maybe even a bit longer, we've been talking about a piece of information that John has diluted down. That's not quantum eraser John, it's refracted curvature John, in case you're wondering who I'm referring to. In regards to the requirement for a flat plane in order to make an assertion of, in the first instance and obviously, a flat plane, or indeed a globe, which requires a flat plane to make the assertion. You're not going to get out without a flat plane. So you need a flat plane. It's the most concise demolition of the argument, given that our opponents are currently coming to us and telling us that they need a flat plane, or asking us why surfaces under mountains would be curved. That's what we're currently getting from our anti-flat Earth opponents. So it's turn out the lights, the party's over, Earth is flat, we all require it to be, and this elevation angle argument proves it so. So I'm hoping that, John, if you're listening and there's not a load of noise in the background, we can get a quick summary from you if it's actually your argument that you summarised.
I go after John.
Yeah, the thing I was wanting to bring to people's attention is that even before with the Black Swan, it was a globe debunking. It showed that you couldn't live on a sphere because you'd have a geometric horizon. But even if those pictures didn't exist of the horizon exceeding those geometric limitations, even if we didn't have pictures of that, you would still require a flat plane to measure the angles to use to calculate a radius value. So, in a way, this argument is kind of making the Black Swan obsolete. It's made everything obsolete.
I agree. It makes it redundant. It doesn't mean it's not useful. It doesn't mean it's not right or incorrect as a result of, or any of those things. It just means it's not necessarily required if you've got a good understanding of the elevation angle argument, because they'll need a flat plane in the first part of their argument. It's a beautiful day to be a flat earther. Go ahead.
I have to say something, and I don't mean to take anything away from John, because John is very good at breaking things down. But I was the one who detailed that it had to be flat. I even have a video on my channel to prove it. That they don't have the sphere without the flat plane. That their sphere comes from a flat plane.
Erwin.
Hello.
Okay. I mean, we can go down the line. It's just when I give him credit, Brian, it's only because he's made that point in the last 35 minutes, as opposed to over, and I could preface it and said it's been done over the last couple of days. We could go back through the line, thanking all the way back to our mothers, if we want. And I'm not trying to take away from you and your place in this argument either, Brian, by saying that.
Yeah, well, Erwin stole my thunder before, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to do this to John, but I'm not having anyone else steal my thunder. Because I had a thought before, and I was just about to say it, and Erwin said it just before me, and I know he robbed the thought. I know he did. He's a thought robber.
What?
Wizard!
He's good at that.
What did I do?
You stole his argument and then punted it
You robbed
moments before he
Brian's
was going to.
mind.
That's
So, meanwhile...
yeah, it's just taking the argument and accelerating it. Is like argument ballistics.
You're not going to get apologies from anybody here, Brian. Check it out. Just like ballers when it comes to stolen valor.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I did it. I apologize.
You didn't. You just summarised it up in a different way. Brian's also summarised it in a similar way prior to you. And he's right. Yeah, but I would say that Brian basically got that argument from me. Copyright Nathan Oakley, 1980. Subscribe today.
Actually, when I said the other day, when you said, Nathan, and you're going to need ore for that, and I said to you, yeah, but you're going to need a flat plane for that ore. You said, I said that just now, and you said, I'm robbing that, and it's over.
Oh, so I do remember. I did the same joke. That's correct.
Yeah, even though you're giving John props, the truth is that you stole it. Straight away.
Did John finish his summary?
I do remember, right? But, equally, you're all winners. It's just I'm the biggest winner here.
But all of you
I'm going to claim that win.
Hold on. The first time I remember anybody saying that you need two straight lines to make a corner was 10. So I'm giving it to him.
No.
Technically, Nathan doesn't have an original idea here at all.
You can't have the same person that's gone through the details at length over significant periods of time take the credit for all of that work. I mean, it's just not on. You want the person that's just given a quick summary to get all the credit, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to pass it on to John so he can finish his summary. I never got the end.
Yeah, and Neil, that you're wrong because technically Nathan invented Dick Earth. That was his.
That wasn't me. You're joking. That was invented years ago to take the mickey out of Lord Stephen Christ, who's a what do they call him? A concaver, and
Wacko.
a whole bunch of people who are around and don't really make any videos now, really, came up with it just to troll them in chat, and there was all sorts of narratives that went along. I came up with a couple, but I certainly didn't invent Dick Earth. No, that wasn't me. Far from it.
All right, you're right, Neil. Nathan hasn't invented anything.
Anyway, he steals everything.
I
don't steal
will
anything.
hold on to globe jitsu and blocking punches with your face.
That is what this is, though, isn't it? You know, when they, as I said in the pre-show, when they're begging us for a flat surface of any kind on the globe, there's got to be some flat surfaces on my claim to be spherical Earth, or asking us why the ground under the mountain would be curving, when that's the fundamental premise of their claim. That's where we're at. And again, just to give the credit where it definitely is due, John pointed this out in the pre-show.
I experienced globe jitsu only in the past 2 hours. I had a guy tell me that the two-way speed of light is a measurement and that I didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, no, there is no one-way speed of light. He said, we don't need it. He said, but we also agree that we don't know if the signal going there from A to B is the same speed as from B back to A. It's like, so you don't have a one-way speed of light then. You know what I mean? That's globe jitsu.
Yeah, bash yourself in the face with your own argument. It's an epic thing. Should we do a bit of housekeeping? It's a bit jovial to do housekeeping at the moment.
Well, before you do housekeeping, I put up the 3 slides again from yesterday. I want to spend just a second on that because that was towards the end of the show.
Okay, yeah, let's start. It's up. Nautical science. Go ahead.
Yes. So if you go to the first page following that, it says, when we measure the altitude of the sun, although we are as careful as possible, there are several reasons why the angle the sextant gives us is not a true altitude of the sun. For navigational purposes, we need the true altitude, height observed, abbreviated HO. And true altitude assumes, among other things, that our sextant is perfect, and that we are standing at the center of the Earth, and that we are measuring to the center of the sun. Now, ballers, anti-flat earthers, listen up. The guy who wrote this book says none of these is true. In their own books, they're telling you none of these is true, but they put pictures to fool you. I don't know how much more epic you can get than them admitting none of these is true. I mean, that's pretty direct, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, because it can't be. It wouldn't work if it was. So they have to disclaim it so you don't get it wrong, because the functionality being employed requires a flat plane. So none of the sphere-y bit we talk about is true. You're just going to measure an angle off a flat plane.
That's it. I mean, that's pretty much destroys them right there.
Did you want the other page? Last page?
Yeah, you can go to the other page. The other page is good as well. The next thing we must account for is the fact that the horizon we see is not really 90 degrees from our zenith or from the vertical unless our eye is right at sea level. At sea level, the horizon is tangent to the sea surface and at right angles, oh boy, that word, to the vertical. But as our height of eye gets higher, the visible horizon dips lower and lower. The higher our eye, the bigger the amount of dip angle. And it talks about the illustration there. It says, dip is purely a function of our height of eye. So if that height is known, dip can be calculated. So it's just height of eye. It's not Earth curvature. It's how high you are above the sea level, the sea surface. There's your 90.
Epic. Thank you very much. Somebody from the chat says that Lord Stephen Christ died in jail. Does anybody know if that's true?
I heard some rumor like that too. I don't know if it's true.
I thought he was the Christ.
What?
Sorry
what
to
does
go
that
off on a
mean?
slight tangent that's much more morbid than the show was heading. But someone in the chat mentioned it, and I'm like, I'd like to just throw it straight out there. If that's just nonsense that you've heard on the grapevine, unconfirmed, then please don't spread around my chat that people have died unless you've actually confirmed it. Thank you.
Did he accept Dick Earth before he passed?
I believe so. Okay, let's do a bit of housekeeping. We're still only 12 minutes into the live show. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
Well, you're going to need a flat plane to get that curved adjacent.
To assert it after you've measured angles on a flat plane, you mean?
Yeah, you can't talk about curved adjacents until you've already measured a flat.
That's right, they're going to need a flat plane for that. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Even if the black swan didn't exist, they would still need a flat plane to measure the angles to assert that such a thing existed.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, not being accounted for by helicopters.
Or hot air balloons?
Or Newtonian mechanics.
Or drones?
Or
Or
airplanes.
radius value.
Or aeroplanes? That's a good one.
It's for footballs.
Well, there's a claim of footballs, isn't there, Adam? It's claimed Earth turned underneath footballs. Of course, they're only in the air for a couple of seconds and generally take a curved trajectory anyway. But you can assert that that curved path the ball takes isn't really curved at all. It's actually straight. It only seems to be curving because you're turning beneath it on an Earth that's turning with a ball that's left it. Of course, that would mean that the blimp filming the game would also have Earth turning underneath and it would drift away. And it doesn't. It would also mean that flight times would be vastly shortened because Earth would be turning underneath the plane for you to observe them drift, as is claimed to happen. Of course, a Charlotte, North Carolina to LA flight would only take an hour and a half, when in reality it takes 4 hours because Earth's not turning underneath any plane for us to observe it drift, as is claimed with Coriolis effect on a globe Earth, which we don't observe.
What I want to ask Neil deGrasse Tyson is, what would happen if I kicked a football on the flight from Charlottesville to North Carolina?
You couldn't really describe the Coriolis effect on the flight because you're part of the inertial reference frame in that instance. So to have the Coriolis effect, you've got to be observing the plane from a roundabout or from a turning reference frame of any description. Doesn't matter if it's a whirlpool going down towards your death. As you look up at the plane, oh, as I'm going down this whirlpool spinning, it looks like that plane's curving. It's not. It's going straight.
I don't want to ask you. You understand Coriolis. I said I wanted to ask Neil deGrasse Tyson what his response to that would be.
He'd probably start detailing drift in the inertial reference frame observed from the inertial reference frame as a lot of anti-flat Earth. No, I don't. That's a good question because he typically sticks to the rhetoric. But I don't think you're ever going to be in with Neil deGrasse Tyson, no one's ever going to be in a position to have him answer that question. He just puts out the standardised rhetoric. He's never going to be wrong. He's always going to be towing the line of globe rhetoric, even if he's got to assert that there's a non-inertial turning reference frame turning underneath everything. Now, if that was the case, you'd jump up and down, and Earth would carry on turning underneath you. If you're on the equator, Earth would turn beneath you at 1,000 miles an hour. That's what they're claiming. Now, obviously, that doesn't happen. No drones drifting away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator because Earth's turning beneath it while it hovers. You'd notice. But
that's why I want to ask him. If you've got one of those big American military things, they got you could got like a football pitch inside the back of the plane in military transports. Kicked a football in there, would that one curve? Or it'd be an interesting how we would answer it.
I was going to say I didn't want to answer because I don't know. I've got to now wrap my head around. It takes a few seconds to how Neil deGrasse Tyson with mainstream rhetoric in line or towing the line of that rhetoric would answer. I don't know.
I can answer it. I can answer it.
Okay, go ahead, Ted. But you reckon it'll be in line with globe rhetoric?
Yeah. If that was done, it would be seen in plain sight.
Yeah, we'd just see it. And it'd just say we see it.
Ja, ik heb het.
Plane, site,
Yes.
pun, bum, 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 bum.
Okay, aside from the pun, Adam still,
gosh.
would have... anybody with a good understanding of Coriolis would have Neil deGrasse Tyson over a barrel in a few moments in this regard. But no one's ever going to be in that position. So he can just carry on asserting to some fawning presenter that Earth's turning underneath footballs and so forth. Shout out to Godzilla37. I was
he's gonna
forced...
have to...
Just one sec. I was forced to watch ads before the stream. Turns out Egos are flat too. Egos? What's that mean? Thank you for the
Egos.
super chat.
Well, the problem, the main problem is that they're going to need a molten iron core for this rotation. And to have that, they're going to need to have a globe center. To have a globe center, they're going to need to have a flat Earth.
Indeed. I think that's Brian's argument. That definitely came from Brian originally. Are we all in agreement here? That's definitely Brian's.
Copied that off me in the pre-show.
Oh, I do vaguely remember that, Adam. Anyway, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I've got a comment to make, and I'm not very good on it. I don't like it because it's nonsense. But I was in a Discord chat the other day, and they mentioned it, so I just brought it up because it's just something I'd read with regards to the speed of light. And Rumpus was in there, so I put it to him. And it's always interesting. It's interesting what Rumpus won't tell you or how quickly he moves on. And he conceded the point that, yes, it does happen. And I'll come to what does happen. But wouldn't go why, where, how, and what the difference is, and why this is considered now, and why, therefore, reflection isn't reflection. So it's to do with the two-way speed of light. And I was reading an article that's saying during any reflection, so when you're doing that two-way, it's not even the same photon on the way back. Reflection isn't reflection. The energy has to be absorbed, upscaled, and re-emitted, even if that's just on the surface. And that's what's going to happen. And for my thinking, my point is, well, that's your speed of light that you're measuring. It's that upscale of energy transference, absorbance, and re-admittance. That's the time you measure. The rest's instant to me. But that was the point I put to him. But I said he conceded that happens, but then just moved on quickly, and then it descended into Rumpus, which, like I said, it's quite telling. But just with regard to that, it was just something I was reading. I don't really understand it, but it does seem to be. There's a quote in Scientific American and a few other places that seem to be postulating that this occurs. Well, if this occurs, then that has a time component, which I don't think has been considered in the two-way speed of light previously. Done.
I'm pretty sure that the only person with any expertise on this is Brian. Over to you, Brian.
Well, unless you have a one-way speed of light measurement, you don't have a distance to a sun in the heliocentric model. As per, you don't have a heliocentric model.
Godzilla's...
You're going to need
what
at
if
least
you-
3 assumptions for that.
Right on. I just want to shout out this egg goes. Okay. Now, shout out to Godzilla. He says, now I have to super chat to clear it up. Well, I really appreciate the support, Godzilla. Thank you very much indeed for the second super chat. Egg goes are a brand name for a prepared waffle/pancake you put in the toaster. Okay, that's a new one on me. Brilliant. I'll look that up in my local Walmart.
Well, what if you take the flat plane measurements of angles to the sun and then assert that those rays that you've imagined the light is coming in parallel, and then you bend the flat plane to make those rays parallel?
Well, you
Is
won't
that
be, will
acceptable?
you? You'll still have a flat plane at the centre of a sphere.
Yeah, but if you pretend that the rays that you see from the sun that come through the clouds and hit the surface of the water and whatever else, if you pretend they're train tracks, then you can just whitewash over all other logic.
Exactly. Train track sunlight.
Exactly.
That's not dumb at all.
Not even remotely.
Or you can do like assume like they assume, which is do an elevation angle today, and then in 6 months' time do another one, and estimate that within 6 months from now I'm 93 million miles away on the other side of the sun. So we can do this triangulation to the sun. I mean, it's so moronic, the things they say.
Going to do what? Once you're on the other side of your heliocentric assumption, you're going to do what now?
Yeah, they triangulate again. 6 months apart.
No, he's not twigged to what I'm saying, has he? Maybe someone else from the panel. I think John, as it was definitely him who originally verbalised this point.
You're talking about elevation angles.
Right on. It's gonna need a flat plane for that. I'm just waiting for you to say it, Brian.
Yeah, you're going to need a flat plane for that. But the whole point of what's being said there is that they have to pre-assume it's already a sphere when they're doing that. So they have to. I may as well do it, right?
Before you do, shout out to 828 for the super chat. Mike, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, the two-way speed of light calculation, not measurement, is based on 4 pre-assumptions and 2 averages. The first pre-assumption is that you're on a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles. The second pre-assumption is that the sun is also a sphere of a particular size and distance. The third pre-assumption is that the globe Earth goes around the sun, and the fourth pre-assumption is that Kepler's analemma is correct. The first average is the 3959 average radius of a globe Earth, and the second average is the average distance the globe Earth is from the sun over a 12-month period in the heliocentric model. That's your two-way speed of light calculation based on absolutely F all.
Right, just like Adam pointed out in the pre-show.
Yeah.
But
Well
to
done,
get that
Adam.
3959. But to get that 3959 radius, you'd need a flat plane, right?
Yeah, you'd need a flat plane to get it, yeah.
This is becoming like chess, isn't it? It's like we're all playing like chess against each other.
Well, it's at the end of the game, though, so as much as we can try and make the analogies in the pre-show, I'm not knocking you either with your analogy because I'm spinning off it from it, John. But John was saying it's the start of the chess game, and you move your pawn, and then the opponent knocks over their queen and knocks over their king, and you go, what are you doing? Well, that's the equivalent of coming here and begging us to have some flat surfaces on a sphere so you can measure an angle from them, or asking us why you'd have curve under a flat surface. You know, those are the sort of rebuttals that we're getting in this regard, i.e. they relinquish their own argument and start begging for a flat plane because they need one. They're going to have one. The elevation angle requires it. So they're all needing a flat plane. Well, instead of the pawn being moved and then the queen and then the king, no, we've had a 7-year game of chess. Well, now it's check. Oh, well, I'll move over here. Yeah. Check. Well, I'll move over here. Yeah. Check. That's the state of play. That's where we're actually at if it's comparable to a game of chess.
Well, I would say it's more like check, they move, check, they move, check, they move, checkmate. And now it's becoming check, checkmate.
Exactly.
But they just turn over all the pieces. They don't turn over their king. They turn over everything.
No, they don't. Because they're begging us to have a flat plane. As John so eloquently keeps pointing out, obviously being the best person to ever summarise this, you know, they're going to need a flat plane in the first instance.
Yeah, but they won't concede. That's what I'm talking about. At the end of a game of chess, if I just throw all the pieces across the room, then I didn't concede. I didn't put over my king.
No, but they did.
You know what I mean?
No, but they did. When they begged for a flat plane.
Well, they did state, and I have it there on a video, I have all the comments, they do state that a tangent plane to their circle, to their sphere, can be infinite in size, if they need it to be.
What, they can have one single point, the only relation to their sphere edge being the horizon we debugged with the black swan, and they're going to need R to get. That single point can have a vast, flat plane extending out infinitely with a tiny little speck of dust ball that's totally irrelevant to the flat plane you're measuring to get angles. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, you can have an insignificant ball that's completely redundant underneath, like a full stop under an A4 page size line. Yeah, not relevant really to the measurement on that flat line that you're going to be doing. But you can say it's infinitely massive. And the ball is just as redundant to the flat plane measurement you need.
Just don't forget to do the dip correction afterwards.
Well, if it's globe dip correction, it's correcting to a flat plane now, isn't it? After they've acquired the angles to talk about the tangent plane that they got from angle measurements on a flat plane, they can talk about correcting it in their maths to be flat. yeah, they can do that too. Even if you've got a preconceived notion of a sphere, when you get here, you're going to be correcting that flat, just so you all know. Because it must be. It can't work any other way. Earth is obviously, observably, measurably, demonstrably flat.
I don't think they realise just how, I'm going to say it, sorry for the language, how fucked they are.
No, but I don't think it's going to take very long because some of them have cottoned on pretty quick and started lying.
That's the telling
The
part,
lie
isn't it?
when you've realised, don't you? And the way in which they come in demonstrates it's a concocted routine to deny the realities, the truths we're pointing out. So I think they've realised, which is why we've got the arguments we've got.
As opposed to denying reality, though, they're denying physical functionality of a tool that's being used to measure a flat plane and lying about needing 90 degrees, for example. You know, as I said on a couple of shows ago, shh, don't mention 90 started off as a bit of a joke because one of the ballers said it. Obviously, somebody who's cognitively realised that they don't have one and can't acquire one off a curved adjacent. So, shh, don't mention 90. Well, it's not just, shh, don't mention it. Hopefully no one will mention the fact that we require a flat plane to do any of these angle measurements. Zanuck came in and just lied about it. Lied through his back teeth. And that's where we're at.
Well, remember when Rumpus knew years ago that the horizon was not a geometric location, but he hid it from all the other ballers and kept it to himself until January 2020, when he was forced to admit that it's only in the maths. Well, now you have a similar situation, with the exception of there's a lot more of them know the truth now. And they're keeping it, though, from the masses of fools that follow them. And that's what they're doing. There's a load of rumpuses now. Because that's what they have to become rumpus.
Exactly, they have to become a lying bastard in order to peddle this nonsense now. And cognitively, I think a lot of them realise that. But the guy yesterday, I don't want to get into that. What, the requirement to lie your ass off or concede you need it flat when it's been explained to you? Yeah, you can be damn straight you don't want to get into that if you don't want to prove yourself a liar to a live audience. Yeah, you don't want to get into that. You definitely don't want to get into the flat plane you need, because it's a concession or a lie that you'll have to use in defence of it.
Nathan, I like to comment on the guy yesterday. That's his way of dealing with the pain of realizing what the argument is saying. So for him to have less pain, he'll say it can work either way if you do this or that. So then when you ask him, well, this is the only way this can work, well, I don't want to get into that, because if he gets into that, then the pain comes back. But if he can say it can work on both models, he's in the middle. So they're going to take that middle position to avoid the pain.
Yeah, I said it earlier. Yeah, that's a nice fence you've built there. What's that you say? If you take the globe model, which required a flat plane to acquire, you can transpose it onto any shape you like, therefore you can sit on a fence. No, you can't, because your globe that you started with required a flat plane in the first instance. What's that you say? You don't want to get into this? Well, why are you here? Maybe it's to solve the all-painful problem that you have cognitively. Yeah, I believe it is. And you thought you'd solved it with a little fence you built about it could be any model. Yeah? Stay in that little dichotomy? No, I'm afraid not.
Yeah.
Expand it out. Yeah, that'll work. Rather than a dichotomy, it could be anything, so we can't really prove it. Yeah, we can. Elevation angle proves it. What's that you say? You don't want to get into it? Yeah, bless.
Yeah, well, what Ted is saying is true. I'm going to go Arwen on it now and call what the guy yesterday was saying, even though he was a nice fella and he was trying his best to be honest. That's why he didn't want to get into it, as Nathan is saying. But what that is mathematical acceptance therapy. You know, if they can make it a mathematical acceptance, they can kind of go along with it. That it could be anything. It could be flat, mathematically, if we work it out, it could be a globe. You know what I mean? That way they're not saying it isn't a globe, it actually is flat.
Yeah, he's not taking a stand anywhere. He says it could go either way.
Hold on. No, he is. He just doesn't know it. He's using a globe Earth model that was derived from a flat plane. He just doesn't want to talk about it.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. That was what was explained to him precisely by 3 different people, I might add. And when it's like, okay, so it's definitely got through to you. 3 people have explained. You've nodded along. So you understand now that the model you started with required Earth to be flat. That was the starting point, and will be forevermore. Oh, what's that? You don't want to get into this. No, you're damn right you don't, because you'll be proven a liar very quickly, or have to concede Earth's flat because it must be.
Right, and once you start distorting measurements, it doesn't matter what you distort those measurements into. You could try to distort them back to how you originally took them. It doesn't matter. The measurement is what matters.
Starts flat.
That's the bit that killed him. It's on screen now. Because we went through all the clever stuff, and we got to the comprehension, and that was the point. It was this. This, not being, it looks like a ball, but that's just what you see. And what the reference here is this flat plane, your field of vision. That was the reality of what we're describing. That's how you take all of these things, where whatever you're going to do with them afterwards, sphere, pyramid, domed, ice wall, whatever you're going to construct, you're going to build around that is kind of irrelevant, because fundamentally, and that's where he struggled, as you said, this point here, it's all taken off of a flat surface.
I'm thinking more about the cause of all this. If you guys know what I mean.
Cause of his cognitive pain.
Why would what's occur? They still attach to this center of mass, gravity, that it doesn't exist. It's obviously flat.
Are you asking why they need to lie to themselves, etc.? Is that what you're asking?
They still attach to what's a bending, curving. The sextants, as the Black Swan, has been proven that there is no curve. We don't live on a sphere. The only sphere that they have in their mind is the gravity as a center of mass, which it doesn't exist. It's been debunked over and over.
Yeah.
Well, one thing he was trying to do was take away the wind by claiming it was a stalemate. That was the idea.
Oh, there was no stalemate.
Well, of course not. He had to get the measurements from a flat plane. That was the whole point. But he was trying.
He didn't want to get on there. He wanted to build this little stalemate fence, as you've described it. Sit up on it and tell us how it's all a stalemate and you can't prove anything. We just go along. And, go on.
For me, Nathan, that's why I was quite friendly on that, because for a baller to come in with something that would have previously been something we'd have to unpick as a proof, he's kind of come in like with nothing to say, look, actually, one of the things that weapons we had isn't worth the paper it's written on, because it is just a concept, so you can stick it anywhere. And I thought it was a strange thing and a seed change thing that actually we've got. Whilst I respect he was clearly struggling with it and he still thinks it's a ball, even though he's done all this, it's a very odd thing for a baller to do. It's very honest, but it's not what you would expect them to do. It's certainly not what previously they've done, and that's why we're all nice to him, because it wasn't somebody coming in lying. He wasn't able to be truthful to himself, but he wasn't lying to us. He was...
No. He got to the point where he had a crossroads, either concede it's flat or lie about how it works. And he chose to say, no, I'm not going to do either. I need to do more research. Now, at that point, when someone says that, it's a bit unreasonable. If you go, okay, no, you're just going to have to accept it now because we've explained it well enough. Nah, that's not really reasonable. But he didn't get that, did he? He got, okay, fair enough. That was the end of it. But he didn't lie. He didn't go out of his way to say, you don't need 90.
Am I recalling yesterday's show correctly if I say somewhere in that discussion, the back and forth we had with him, he said it can't be proven either way? Did he say that?
Yes, he did.
Yes, that's what he said.
Okay.
Well, if we take, he's actually far ahead of the rest of the ballers. Now, I'm only going off of him yesterday. I haven't met him outside of that, so I don't know how he will be in the future. But he's far ahead because Sabine Hosselfelder, the German lady who's an astrophysicist, she first made a video about flat earthers, and then she made a different one or another one about 6 months later, or maybe 9 months later. The first one was kind of where she was kind of attacking us a bit, or making kind of half a joke of us. The second one was silly as well, but she captioned it as flat earth science, I think it was. Wrong, but not stupid. It's like, she still has to believe, see, what he was doing is the same as what she was doing. It is definitely a ball, but because of her experience in the world and because of a few anomalies, it's totally understandable why someone could believe and people of faculty and intelligence could believe that it's flat. They're not correct, but they're not stupid to think that. So it's like they can't call it, what it is that the more smarter ones know they can't call us stupid anymore, because we're obviously not. But they also have to still keep believing, still starting, well, we're on a globe, but, they have to start at that point. The starting point is always, it's a globe. And that's what he was doing, the man yesterday was doing, Loon, or whatever the man's name was. And that's what Sabine Hostelfelder was doing.
I recall that show. I watched that one that you did. You're spot on.
It's cognitive pain relief. That's all it is. But it's a similar type of pain relief that a lot of flat earthers have been through, just while sat on the other side of a fence this guy has built. But by the same token, I've seen plenty of flat earthers build up similar fences also. So when it's a flat earther doing it, I've got a bit more respect for them, because it's like, yeah, there's so many flat earthers that don't really know what they know. They think they know. They just believe it, though, because they've not really got any great proofsies to actually go on the circuit and argue with and win. So you've got the same old crappy rhetoric that's been handed to you by the controlled opposition narrative, and you think you're going out on the circuit doing a good job. Well, you're not. But the guy who says, well, I'm kind of on the fence, I don't know how I prove it either way, you go, good. But when you're on the fence, and only on the fence because you need to justify how it could still be a sphere by building up a little narrative where the model started with a sphere, but you could then remodel them out any way you like, we come along and go, no, your model of a sphere started with a flat plane too. I don't want to get into it.
Well, isn't that the sign of a paradigm shift, though? Like,
yes.
Because if you're moving for a stalemate, it's showing how weak your argument is.
Exactly.
That's my point, John. Exactly. Yeah. Very strange thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I know this thing, but I really don't. Never mind.
Well, it's back, John. It's back to your chess analogy. Their own piece knocks them over. So okay. Do you want to call this a draw? No, you just knocked yourself over. I would no, but please make it a draw.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happened. You're in checkmate. The game is over, and you go, can we call it a draw? It could be either of us that would win this. No, you're in check about 5 times, and now you're in checkmate. You can't go anywhere. It's over. Yeah, but we can call it a draw. We can think of it as a draw. I've built this little fence here that says I'm, still in a position to maybe win.
Monty Python, when he cuts the dude's arms and legs off and he looks at him and says, all right, we'll call it a draw.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, the Black Knight. I'll bite your legs off, as the guy's galloping away.
It's progress. It's definitely progress.
But
because...
I do think...
Well,
I was just going to agree with... go ahead. I'm interrupting when I'm just going to nod along with...
No, that's all I have to say. There was nothing profound coming after it.
We said it about a week or two ago, and we all kind of discussed this, not in a vague way either, in a very overt way. I think there has been a paradigm shift I talked about my daughter learning about flat Earth songs in school. Like, did you ever dream I would be telling you that? 12, 18 months ago? Well, there's stuff that's changing all the time. And people come on the show and talk about classrooms that have done a little straw poll there and then and found out that a good chunk of the classroom are actually flat earthers and go, yeah, we don't believe any of that either. And it's the stuff they're being taught in the classroom there and then. So you go, okay, well, that means something.
Well, remember the chocolate spartner's daughter? He never talked to her whatsoever about flat Earth. And when he's talking to us, he's always on the phone in his workplace, so she's not around. And in school, she's only 11, and she told the teacher, oh, I'm not writing all that, that's a load of rubbish. That's not real. And then she argued with her mother when there was a telephone or like a video call going on with the teacher. She said, no, I won't do it. Her mother was saying, will you just do it? No, I won't, it's rubbish. So they're in trouble.
Yeah, when you can't trick kids anymore, you are in trouble.
Yeah,
exactly.
The next generation of kids will be disseminating this information. And, you know, that can only involve a paradigm change, which I think has been rolled out all the time. This whole time, this indicates this whole thing was always going to go that way. Slow release, however it's described. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No, Nathan, you go ahead. Sorry.
That's it. It's just they've obviously decided that the jig is up with the globe Earth lie, and therefore you can't just spring it on people. You need to filter it in a way that it reaches enough people over a slow enough time that it's fought against in the way that we fight against it with the anti-flat earthers, and then eventually kind of just accepted as being the reality that the world is. And there will reach a point where people just become indifferent. You know, I'm still waiting. My wife's 90% there already. She's indifferent. She's like, yeah. As opposed to, well, no. Which is typically how the world was 2 years ago. Well, I'm not going to base the entire world on my wife, but you know what I'm getting at. There's a very different vibe at the moment.
Yeah, because what they need to do is to have the paradigm shift happen from globe to reality, and there not be absolute uproar. That's what they need to do, and they're doing it. And it'll take another few years, but what you'll have is that once it starts becoming more mainstream, you'll have a load of people coming out, and some of them will have been closet flat earthers, but the others just will have been on the fence. And because they can see the tide moving in the flat direction, they'll just go with what they think is going to be the safest bet. So they'll just go along with it because they don't want to be seen to be standing out or going against something and looking silly. Yeah. So the only people who are going to look silly is going to be like Rumpus and all them.
Well, they're faceless, nameless trolls for the most part. The people who are the most vehement are completely faceless individuals.
But here's the thing, because once the globe is dead and forgotten, the other paradigm will be set up on the same foundation. The foundation being, most people aren't privy to what logical fallacies are and how to define terms accurately. Like, so as long as that's the case, they still have us by the balls.
Absolutely. So regardless of anybody's misapprehensions that suddenly if the paradigm shift changes and everybody thinks they're on a flat plane, that will in any way alter any of the control matrix that we're all part of when we interact with society on any level whatsoever. None of that will change. If there's a paradigm shift, it's because it's been implemented by the powers that should not be, and they're monitoring it as it progresses exactly how they would like it to, until it changes, and the new narrative will be absolutely in their favour and offer them just as much control as they had before. And nothing will change until that is the case. Now, the fact that it is changing means that there's probably an end game already well and truly set out, and if in 5 years, 10 years, however long it may be, you mention it in hushed tones to the man on the street at the bus stop, you do know the Earth's flat. Yeah, says the man at the bus stop, everybody knows that. And suddenly it'll dawn on you. Everyone around you already knows, and have already accepted it, and have moved past it without any discussion with you. In the meantime, don't let it faze you. If you're on this side of the fence, you've got nothing to worry about at the moment. Literally nothing to worry about.
Not when
Yeah,
your
this
opponent
is
needs to make
described
your
by
argument
Hegel.
for you.
Sorry, go on. Citation, please.
This is described by Hegel in his thesis, antithesis, synthesis model. So you have the thesis, the globe model, the antithesis, the flat earth model, and then the synthesis, which is an entirely new proposition, which is neither of the two. It's something new.
Oh, the quantum dimensional realm. Obviously flat in nature, but layered with multiple possibilities and
Maybe.
time travel. And a new version of gravity. Just like the old one, but with a fifth dimension. Dun dun dun!
Well, this can't
What?
be thesis, antithesis. It can't be, because it's thesis and then they use our thesis to make something else up.
Yeah,
It's
the
Well,
beginning.
I was-
Hold on. Cracking point, John. As ever. Can you reiterate it? Shout out to Brian.
It's not it's not opposing ideas. They're using a flat plane to calculate a radius, so that they're not coming up with an opposing idea. We're both measuring a flat plane.
You're going to need a flat plane, and 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 you're going to need a flat plane. Now
well,
look under
I
your
was think-
seats. Everybody look under their seats. That's the flat plane right there. Tax-free.
I was thinking before a couple of times that, you know, this Mandela effect claim, that they could use what's that big interferometer or whatever the hell they have in Switzerland.
Third.
What's that thing? The Higgs boson. You know the way they found that thing. They said they found a thing called the Higgs boson. What's that again?
The Hadron Collider. It's CERN, isn't it?
The Hadron Collider, yeah. That they could say, you know, this is far out, but the world is so bizarre, I don't put it past them, that they could say that there was something happened with that and they created a paradigm dimensional shift, that the Earth was a globe, but now it's actually flat.
I'll buy that for $1. Yeah, they can come up
Yeah.
with any old bollocks. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The problem is that for all the people who originally fell into, check it out, we've got an azimuthal equidistant projection of a flat plane with an ice wall and sun and moon, physical bodies moving over the top of it. You go, all you've done is fallen straight into next man's modelling system. Well, for all those people that were just looking for the next guru, you haven't taken any of the benefits of this journey of discovery away from the actual journey. If you ask me, I mean, that's a bit high and mighty, but that's how I see it. Because the benefits aren't necessarily the realisation of the Earth being flat. It's the realisation that there's people out there that will punt models so that they can take a little bit of control away from you. That's the bottom line. That's all it really boils down to. So, if you've taken that away from this journey, when next man comes along with his model, you'll go, nah, I've assessed your model based on its reification of reality, and I don't want to buy it. So when someone comes up and describes non-physical, fifth-dimensional, layered... They'll probably throw quantum in there, right? It's got to be in there. Yeah, your quantum layer sandwich of a million different possibilities in a multi-dimensional universe. That'll all be in there, and you can assess it on its validity if you've gone through this journey and actually taken something away from it.
Yeah, the whole quantum possibilities thing doesn't really play into the certainty of a flat plane being required to measure an angle. I don't know if you'll be able to wedge that one in.
No, there's no diffraction going on in that regard. You're just talking about measuring angles. So, no, nothing's diffracting. There's no probability distribution. Shout out to Think Outside the Container. Good name. Years ago, Neil Tyson said in a documentary, "The universe is flat." Plausible deniability? Question mark. Maybe. Thank you for the super chat. Think Outside the Container. Really appreciate the support.
That's an asymptotically flat fourth dimensional space-time he was referring to.
Right. Meanwhile, you can't have gas pressure without a container. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Even with the flat plane to calculate R, you would still need a container.
Yeah, it's the antecedent. for the gas pressure we're all breathing. I've seen a few people denying gas pressure recently. Have anybody else come across this? I quite often stutter a little bit because I find it amusing. We're not under pressure. No? Nobody else come across people denying that we're actually experiencing gas pressure? Nobody else has come across that, just me. Fair enough.
I am sorry, Nathan. I'm getting told off by QE in chat. Yeah, there was a guy I'd heard say, could prove there's no pressure because imagine your eardrum would burst. If there was 14 point whatever PSI on out there, your eardrum would burst.
Well, I think that's true for ballers because they've got a vacuum on the other side.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where we see. This is where all the arguments are going. It's kind of denying the thing that is the point of contention in their model, and then going to silly little things to deny gas pressure that even exists now. And we can't deny that we need containment, so we'll deny that we have it down on here at this level and it doesn't exist like that. It's a very odd. So I think I heard it in Discord is where I've heard it. The very odd discussions that you hear now that are brought to the table by Bull are so weak and not really connected to the main topic. They're an argument of a nuance that's not, in many cases, even coherent, but in all the cases, not really relevant, like I said, to the main argument.
Well, probably conducive to what they're trying to achieve, which is not necessarily confirmation bias, but, you know, a bit of pain relief by leaving the argument in confusion. And if they're of that ilk, leave the audience in confusion. So that's like saying it's a draw. If you can leave the argument so confusing that nobody knows who's won or where the argument had a good point to be made, then that's as good as not losing because you haven't in the eye of the audience.
But that's just crazy though. Like, you don't win arguments by striving for stalemates. It just doesn't work.
That's where they're at.
That's just a sign of how weak your argument is, if that's what your whole game plan is.
But that's where they're at.
That's what was noticeable yesterday, wasn't it? Somebody came in with a, can we call this a draw? I've done all this work to call it a draw.
Nah.
Yeah, it's putting up a white flag.
Yeah, when he wanted to claim a draw because he's derived other models, including a flat one, from his sphere fundy belief, yeah, we pushed him off that fence pretty much immediately. Four more hours, says Godzilla37. No, I don't think so, Godzilla. That's actually going to be where I round out this live show. So, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley. Another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
They're still talking about the speed of light over there at I guess that Gem Panda server. They're still using those things and talking about those things. It's like our arguments don't even exist. So I guess holding your ears with your hands and going la 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 la. I guess that's all you can do at this point.
It was just a little bit more pain to throw on. That was all.
Feel free.
Whoops.
I was just
When is Darth coming out with a new one?
It can only get worse from here if that makes them feel any better.
Yeah, that's true. It's all downhill from here. There's just more and more people going to cotton on that you're going to need a flat plane for that. And you'll hear it more and more. And it'll get more and more frustrating for our opponents.
Yeah, but you just need a local flat plane in quanto-Muppedo coordinates.
Locally flat. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's the curve
You think about
function
it,
collapse.
it's just the way they come up with all this exotic media. Like, this doesn't work, so we come up with dark matter. This doesn't work, so we come up with infinite universes. This doesn't work, so we come up with this. We come up with this. That's the whole point of the synthesis. It's not, the antithesis isn't the direct opposite. It's just a negation of the original proposition. So, for example, the horizon is the Earth curve, right? So they were arguing that, and now we're at synthesis where almost both sides agree now that it's optical, right? So they've added optical to their argument and then retroactively claimed they've always claimed it. We know they haven't.
That was the lie that Rumpus got banned for, because I could demonstrate that he hadn't claimed it when he did claim. He'd retroactively always claimed the horizon was refracted when claiming to demonstrate it physically blocked things with its physical geometric spheriness. Easily demonstrable, definitely a lie. That's where they're at. Lie. Proven wrong, lie. No, I didn't need the thing I was claiming and spent hours, if not days, if not months arguing about. No, I wasn't claiming that. Obviously, I declared that it's not a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve. It's a refracted non-geometric position like I always claimed. No, you lying sack of shit. Never return. It's like Zanuck, Milli Vanilli, or Flat Earth Math, Charles. Just, they're in a position where they've got to lie.
Well, you can imagine when they get a flat tire, like Citation said, if they get a flat tire, they're going to call the tow truck and they say, "What's going on?" "Well, I got a locally flat tire." "What do you mean?" "Well, the part that's on the horizontal plane looks flat, but everything else looks round."
Locally flat tire. Very good.
Be careful what you say to Rumpus. He's 6'4".
Oh, is he? The Rumpus, that cartoon character. No, he's not anything. He's a digital entity that doesn't exist in physical reality, much like the arguments he makes. He's a nobody, a faceless potato.
You're going to need an elevation angle to be 6'4".
Tim Osman had to learn about that faceless potato problem the hard way when he gave me a copyright strike. And then suddenly realised that in order to enforce anything in physical reality to do with actual things that people experience in life, he'd have to give me all of his details, wouldn't he? So, subsequently, he's a nobody. An absolute nobody with no power to do anything to anybody ever. Yeah, that's what these cowards have got. They've got a perception that they'd like to portray, that they're 6'2" men, when really they're little cowards hiding behind a million miles of fibre with a fake name and a fake picture. These people don't have any power. None. Minor correction. Minor correction. The power they get is what you give to them. That's all they can get. What you offer them.
Very good, Nathan.
Like when you ask them a question, allowing them to beg the question, allows them that little bit of pain relief and a chance to lie.
Yeah, I'm not going to decry anybody who gives someone like the Rumpus the benefit of the doubt. But the moment you figure out that they're a lying shit, you should, by rights, turn your back on them and never interact with them ever again, ever. Because do you know what they'll do? They'll lie again, and again, and again, and they'll smile more the more they get away with lying to you. So the minute you figure it out, you turn your back on these people because you've proven them a liar, and they're not worthy of your time or energy.
It really triggers him still. I said he was in that room, and I, "Oh no, not you, Rumpus, you're just a liar." He went off, proper went off. So he's very triggering for him still, because the reality is we can hold him to it. So if he was to challenge me on it, I'd go through the points as Nathan says about the Isle of Man and demonstrate it. And it is very triggering for him because he is now a demonstrable liar.
Yeah.
And you can if you do encounter him, that's what I use with him. He just pops. It's
Yeah, you know who else was exactly the same? Charles Flat Earth Math. The moment he was proven a demonstrable liar, he got very upset about it. Nobody's claimed in the 15 years that I've been doing this subject that I'm a liar. How dare you? Well, here's the demonstration of you lying about needing an R value you use in every single claim you ever make about a sphere Earth. And now you're telling me you don't need it, basically you lying. Maybe you should mute me while I point that out and ask you where you got the measurement. Yeah, you'll mute me, won't you, liar? Yeah, that's very telling also. Thanks for that, Charles. You lying sack of shit. I hope your tongue's ripped out in hell.
Well, they're in delusional world, because when I brought it up to Rumpus, he flips out. I have destroyed QE and Nathan in every debate. They won't debate me. That's what they get. Delusional world.
yeah.
Exactly. Delusional worlds. Go and check out the video. It's labelled Rumpus is a liar. And you can listen to examples of him lying. Him claiming there's a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve, marked with an X labelled horizon in his own maths, while he claims that it's physically blocking the Isle of Man, only to later retroactively claim he's always claimed it's refracted. Total lie. And he must, because we've debunked their physical edge they claim block the Isle of Man. Now, it's not a physical edge blocking the Isle of Man, it's a refracted edge not blocking Jack. But he's got to claim it because we've demonstrated it isn't what he claimed at the Isle of Man, necessitating lies.
Painful.
Yeah, lying is painful, cognitively, especially when you're called out on it. Because up until that point, Charles was smirking about his lies, wasn't he? Then he got very tetchy when it's being proven on his own show that he's a demonstrable liar by his own lies. Suddenly, that's not so much fun. Suddenly, you need to mute your guests and point out that you've never had to mute a guest before. Yeah, I bet no one's ever proven you a liar on your own show before, Charles. But I did, so you had to mute me. That's what they'll do. Because they're liars, and they need to con you. And they'll smirk every time they get away with it. Well, I wiped that smirk right off Charles's lying face.
And they'll pretend that they want to be friends with you. That's one of the lowest things they do. Try to befriend you. It's like, you are not my friend. You are a low-life liar. Why would I be friends with you?
Yeah, that's why they get so tetchy about it, because that's what Charles and Rumpus and Zanuck need to rely upon, that the people around them perceive them as trustworthy. You can't have them having demonstrable lies proven on videos. No, that won't do at all, because that ruins their credibility. And they need everyone to believe them when they're peddling their lies, so they can smirk about it rather than cower, and moan, and bleat about nobody's ever called me a liar before.
Yeah, and then go looking for people to prove that they are a liar after they've been categorically proven to be a liar. This is the thing, isn't it? It's like, prove where I'm a liar, prove where I lied, after they've been shown to be absolute liars.
Yeah,
it's a
doubling
complete
down.
Ignorance of it.
It's just doubling down. Here's you using R in your video with an R value. You say you don't need it, that's a lie. Show me where I've lied. Where you used R and now claim you don't need it. That's your lie. Nobody's ever said I've lied, ever. Yeah, but you have. Here's where you're lying. Well, can you show me where I'm lying? Yeah, in this lie. That's what they do, double down, triple down, because the idiots in the audience will go, he's saying he's not lying. And I'm too dumb to follow along with him saying, here's my claim of sphere Earth with R, and now I'm saying I don't need it. I can't figure out, because I'm so stupid, that that's actually a lie. That's what he's relying on the audience to think when he says, no, I haven't lied, in the face of a demonstration of his lie. Yes, you do need R, Charles. You use it repeatedly. And whenever I see Charles in the comments now, using R, I point out he's a liar there too, don't I, Charles? There's Charles lying about that R value again. What, the same one you said you didn't need, Charles? Here's you using it again, you lying shit.
Yeah, their whole shtick is character assassination of us, but at the same time, simultaneously, trying to keep a good outward appearance for themselves. You know, it's real politician-like, isn't it? You know,
that's
But
correct.
doing a terrible job at it, though.
Well, he's making his rounds.
Nathan, what was his point? Of course, I'm setting this up for you. What was his point when he said, no, we got to do the first step before we go to the second step?
Who's going to decide that we're not dealing with an aspect? That would be a flat plane that he needs to measure angles. That he's going to decide that Earth's got a shape to it prior to any actual measurement of his R value. Now, he needs a flat plane to get that R value. But he's going to lie about needing it at all. That's what he actually did. Even though it's fundamentally the premise of his claim, he denied the fundamental premise of his claim because we've debunked it. Hence, a lie is required. Well, in the face of you debunking that, physical geometric sphere edge horizon required to be used as a tangent point to a sphere that I assume after measuring a flat plane to get the height of the mountain. Well, all of those things, they don't need R. Of course not. When I say Earth's a sphere, I don't need R. That's what he did. Well, he's just a lying shit. And I won't let him forget it either.
What a lot of them do is they come in here, or like in that instance, you went to Charles, and they don't get anything. They get nothing. They don't get any leeway. They don't get to have their foot in the door or begging the question, anything. They don't get anything. And they just have to go away and hang around in comments for a few weeks. But what they do then is they try to go, that like Brandon's was handy for them because they could go to Brandon's and peddle their rubbish and that kind of stuff, and they'd be held to task by Brandon, but not everyone in there would have been as sharp as Brandon and wouldn't have held them to task as well as they are here, let's just say. Some of them would, some of them wouldn't. But now they don't have Brandon, so they go to Bev's.
I was just going to say that, Brian.
Yeah, they go to Bev's, don't they, Neil? And that's where they go. They go to Bev's.
Yep.
And Bev and DP and them, they kind of sit around and have a very kind of strange conversation with these people. And
very strange.
Yeah, and Bev and them, they do it different than us, but the same outcome is reached. It's like these people are lawyer. They reach the same two outcomes. They reach the outcome where they're showing the audience that this person is an absolute liar and a fraud, or they're showing the audience that this person's crazy off their brain. You know, because they just speak as in like just a logical conversation with these people.
Right, that's certainly what I've seen of Bev for the most part. Don't get me wrong, I'm not constantly tuned into what Bev does, and I know some of you are moaning about him at the moment, but we'll see how that pads out.
Well, they claim that it's not who's right or wrong. It's cutting the argument off quicker. In other words, they feel that the Black Swan spent so much time on that and it was not needed. And now this elevation angle, it's not needed because the way they go to it, the way they handle it, it just cuts it off real quick.
Good. Great.
Well, normally the way things happen with Bev and DP and them is they just go straight to geometry. They just, whatever the claim is, regardless of what part of the globe heliocentric model it is, whatever part of it they're claiming, they just go straight to geometry and measurements and how did you measure it, what instrument did you use for that, you know, and they go, I use a camera. Well, you can't use a camera for measuring something. Because even Charles was on there recently trying to claim that he measures things with, he can measure something with pixels on a photograph. You know, the thing like Ruhif started back with the Blackpool Swan. So it's like, no, you can't do that. So they just kind of hold them to task on the reality of measuring something and geometry. That's basic.
They're going to use the angles to derive an elevation angle by any means possible when it's something that requires a measurement with a sextant from a flat plane. That sort of thing.
Well, yeah, but what they do, see, what the ballers are doing now, the likes of Charles and them, what they do is they'll take a photograph. They'll avoid the angle part. They'll just take a photograph, just like happened with the Blackpool Swan, and they start making claims about that photograph through counting of the pixels. So they avoid even going near the angle part.
Oh, bless.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why they don't come here. Because they can peddle that nonsense by omission and everyone around them will cheer. Well, why aren't they shoving that under our noses? Well, because it would be ripped to shreds in about 5 seconds flat. That's why. Because if it was a cracking evidence of a globe, do you not think they'd be in here en masse rubbing our faces in it? Oh, I assure you they would. And every so often, one of them gets a bit confident and thinks they can come in and rub our faces in it. And every single time they get their pants pulled down, without exception. Now, the ones that are a bit smarter will go, no, I can just pedal this to my echo chamber. I don't need to put it to the opponent and have it ripped to shreds in 5 seconds. I can have everyone around me just cheering. But how wonderful it is when I omit flat Earth elevation angle measurements that are going to be asserted by a pixel derivation, as opposed to a measurement. Yeah, you can do that all day without us there to point that out, can't you?
Yeah, and they can go all the way back to 1982 to get these things that they're going to avoid the reality of. Do you know what I mean? Like, why did you go back to 1982 for these elevation angles that you're pretending didn't happen?
Because they probably found somebody that made this argument with spherical trig, and that was the only reference they could find. So, like, here you go, someone's gone to a lot of effort back in the day to figure out how to argue this with spherical trig in place, and you start with the angles. Shh! Don't mention you got them from a flat plane! That's why they walked straight into it. Bob walked straight into it. Presumably, MC Toon didn't recognise it either. Because they peddled it. I suspect MC Toon's a bit smarter than Bob, because Bob became the patsy, didn't he? He just came in, started talking about the angles in this challenge. It's like, so because the challenge that you went and found wasn't yours, didn't mention the angle measurements came from a flat Earth, you just didn't consider it and came in cocksure and telling us how wrong we are to rub our faces in it. Yeah, you did, didn't you? But you're going to need a flat plane, Bob.
They didn't find it.
He didn't find it?
It was given to them. It was given to them by a member in the server called Protothad, who has been wanting to get on the show, but he can only come on Fridays. So hopefully one day he'll come and show us how this is all done.
Maybe. Meanwhile, they've got numpties like Toon and Bob, who they can pedal it to, and because they're thick, they neglect to notice that there's an angle measurement being made. Flat plane required, dumbos. Notice they haven't come in. Why aren't they rubbing our faces in this? They came in, went with their tails between their legs, that's Bob and McToon, yeah? Monkey and organ grinder. And have they come back to rub our faces in how wonderful this proof C is? That needs a flat plane? No, they found out it needed a flat plane and never returned. Maybe they're peddling it on their own channel still. Yay!
Citation, what was that guy's name again? The one that gave the information?
Omicron Persei 8.
Protothad. Protothad.
Okay, so he can only come in on Fridays, right? Well, there's thousands of YouTube videos with thousands of subscribers to actual navigators who are holding a sextant, showing you how it works, showing you all the corrections that must be done. And they all talk about getting an angle. They all even say in the videos, you know what, you have to assume the Earth is flat for this to work easier. They even say those things while they do their shows. So, yeah, he can come in, he could be their one darling, but we're going to take him to other experts who have channels and subscribers who say, you know, you have to, excuse me, you have to assume that the Earth is motionless and flat and that the stars are moving.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
lovely day!